sister. I'll introduce you after I've done a brief on who we are as Kāinga Ora and what my role is. So if you want to flick that next slide up, Nathan. So who's Kāinga Ora Homes and Communities? We're a Crown agency. We're newly established. We established back in October of last year. We came from 3 organisations. We were a state home, state-owned by the government. So there was 3 different groups. Kiwi Build, who were building affordable homes, Homes, Lands and Communities, and they were doing our urban development, our bigger work. And that picture you see there is one of the urban developments we're working on in Auckland, called Mount Ruskell. And the 3rd group was Housing New Zealand, which were the state housing. And Housing New Zealand have been around for a very, very, very long time. Back in the 30s was when we started building homes for Kiwis. But there's 2 main roles in this new lineup, and I just want to touch on the name Kāinga Ora. That name was gifted to us, and it means well-being through places and communities. The 2 roles that we work with is we are an urban development authority, so we're leading a range of integrated urban development projects, but we're also being a world-class public housing landlord. And so that's about us getting better and working in excellence of best practice towards our best landlord approach. Some interesting facts about us is that we are a landlord, the largest in New Zealand, of 65,000 public homes, plus because of the new builds that we're doing at the minute, there's about 11,000 homes for public housing in the pipeline. There are 6 large scale regeneration projects throughout Aotearoa, and that picture on the side there represents one of those 6 large urban development areas. And we currently have 3,000 homes contracted under the construction right now. I haven't touched on the fact that there is a housing need here, and we have like 16,000 people registered for a housing need, so on a waiting list, with about 20,000 by the end of the year we're predicting. Thanks, Nathan, if you flick it to the next one. So in our name, Kāinga Ora, you saw the word communities and homes. So the job we've been tasked for by the government is broader than just social housing, landlord stuff, and urban development. We have to engage deeply and meaningfully with our communities, and it's about sustainability, inclusiveness, thriving communities. That's what we're creating here, with good quality, affordable housing choices that meet diverse needs. So we are public housing, we have customers who live with us, and we want them to live well in dignity. Our aim is that there's stability for them, because pre this new Kāinga Ora organisation, it was about moving people on, but now we're saying we want to build stability in their lives, and we want to do it to the greatest degree of them having a say in their housing need and interdependency on what they want in their communities. We're also focused on environmental wellbeing, which is enhanced through preserving our future generations and our properties. There's a partnership, participation and protection, and those are the 3 articles that are featured in our Te Riti o Waitangi, which is our treaty with our Indigenous people here in Aotearoa, between the Crown and our Indigenous people. And on that, Kāinga Ora had said that what we do and how we do it, we have to be respectful about it to our Indigenous people. Last slide. Thank you. And so this is about me and my role. So we're here today to really celebrate our partnership with our community. And so our approach is simple. It's based on the pioneers of ABCD. So I go out when I speak to our communities. We intentionally have in our mindset that everyone has a gift, everyone has something to contribute, and everybody cares about something. So the question I'm going to leave here today, and it's one that my good friend Cormac Russell has written in his latest book, Rekindling Democracy, and he asks, we must ask, how can government agencies create more space so the communities can produce the things that they value? And that statement there is a nice segue into the introduction of my community advocate here that I've been working closely with for a little under a year. She's a dynamic. She has a heart for her people, her community and the wider community. And also she has been working on this specific project for more than a year, maybe a couple of years. But I'll let Helen share with you her story as I welcome and introduce Helen to you. Thank you, Nathan. You can bring Helen up on the screen if you like.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this platform. I'm excited and a bit nervous because the beautiful way Karina speaks I'm not used to, so I'm just getting used to this, speaking to a lot of people and standing up and speaking about what we need anyway. I'll let you know a bit about me first and my iwi. So ko Helen Taurashista Tukuingoa is my name. Ko Tūwhari Toa Mea Hamoa Tuku Iwi. So Tūwhari Toa is in central North Island of New Zealand. That's where my ancestors are based, and also in Samoa. Ko Unuku Mea Whangaloa Tuku Hapu. So Unuku means rainbow in Māori. So it's quite fitting because I also have Irish and German descent through my Samoan and Māori side. And they're from Raitahi and Taumaranui, which is also in the central North Island. Whangaloa is the village in Samoa. Okay, so I'm here to speak about the Scope Initiative, which I've been working with Karina and Lynn on. They've actually been really good mentors with this initiative, so it's been great to be able to figure out how to initiate community initiatives, because I've had no idea how to go through this process. So they've been great mentors for me. They've been great supports trying to help get materials together for this. So I'll let you know a bit about why this is needed. The Scope Initiative is something that I found was needed because of my life experiences where we had mental illness and addictions go through the family, and it held a lot of us back for a long time. So this is a reason why a lot of families get stuck in the system. With my mother, she was diagnosed with depression and given experimental treatment, so that held our whole family back from a young age. You know, we had children, our teenage sisters looking after us as siblings. So you can imagine how angry and rebellious we were. My nephew also passed away in 2016, so that took me on a journey, and that was a lot to do with the way my family grew up with my mother's illness, and the way, I suppose, the mental health system dealt with it and how we did not agree with it. So when my nephew passed away, it was through addictions, and this was in 2016. I took a journey in 2018 and went to the Wānanga to learn about Te Ao Māori, which is the Māori way of life and the Indigenous way of living. I learned Te Reo Māori and Rongoa, so Te Reo Māori, the Māori language, which I had no idea on a lot of the Te Reo. It was hard for me to even start learning it because I grew up the Westernised way. My parents tried to teach us how to fit into that Westernised way of living. So I lost that Te Reo. I went back to the Wānanga, which is the Māori University, learnt Te Reo, learnt the Indigenous way of living, and also the Indigenous way of living is about teaching whānau to work together like marae style. So we had no idea of what to do on marae, anything. No, we didn't know our customs, the culture or anything. We lost all of that. The rongoa side of it was the Māori medicine. So it was about learning to eat healthy, you know, the Indigenous way, like puha and watercress are things that we ended up considering as weeds, but they're actually healthy kai for us, food for us. Also how to use herbal medicines and holistic healing, how to get a balance with your family, your balance within your mental health, your physical health, and also your spiritual health. So, and whānau is a big thing. If you have a breakdown in whānau, it breaks all those other things down as well. So we also learnt our connection to Papatuanuku, which is our Mother Earth, and Ranganui Aotea, which is our Father Sky. And I learnt that we are deeply connected to this. So we're deeply connected to our environment, and if our environment is not looked after, then we will become ill. So this is the reason why Scope Initiative began. It's about reconnecting people to their environments. The first stage of the initiative is to bring healthy kai to these families in their homes. So a lot of the social housing that we're in have quite a bit of room in the backyards that is not used. It's difficult for low income families to maintain these areas. So to avoid them having to worry about eating healthy and maintaining these yards, we want to be able to put in marakai, which is food gardens, and also make their yards manageable. So they're not just mowing lawns, they're using it to grow productive fruit, food. So, and also reconnecting them to nature, you know, so they're actually spending more time outdoors with their family and their children, and learning how to grow, learning how to eat healthy, just relearning a lot of things that we have lost through Western cultures. I've approached government departments like the council and MSD, and I found it very difficult to get support with this because they wanted a business plan, and this isn't a business venture. It's actually, it's not something I could even figure out how to put a plan in place, because it wasn't about making money. It was about reconnecting people and trying to learn what I had learned in the wānanga, because a lot of the people I know won't go to the wānanga. This sort of thing freaks them out because they've lost connection with all of it, and it's quite embarrassing to stand up in front of your culture and show them that, you know, you feel embarrassed, which we call whakamā. You feel embarrassed that you don't know your language, you don't know your history. So it's trying to get into these houses also to be able to teach them this, but doing it in a supportive way where we're actually helping them at the same time reconnect to nature by putting these food gardens in. The way I met Karina and Lynn was through a tenancy manager, Deneen. She understood what I was talking about with family history and how we need to reconnect. She helped me organise a painted mural down the end of my street, which was, there was a horrible spot down there, depressing looking, made the street feel depressing. So we put up a anti-suicide mural and organised a neighbourhood Neighbours Day, where we brought all the neighbours together and connected everybody in the street. So I know all my neighbours really well, and it's good because it's a good safety factor. We all look after each other, and the environment we live in is a lot better. So like I said, meeting Karina and Lynn, they've been the big mentors here for me. They've helped me step out of my box as far as being able to reach people and speak on these sort of platforms. The people that I'm working with in the community, I work in home support, so I get to see a lot of what they're going through. A lot of them, you know, go through the same sort of things that my family has been through, where it's disconnection and becoming reliant, where they don't want to be there, but they need to be able to trust people. Because I think even my whānau, my family, we lost trust in the system when we had seen what our mother had gone through. So what I've done is I've gone out and I've outlined plans with the people in the community to sort of arrange what their gardens or what they want their yards to look like. So a lot of them have done these plans up, and about 3 of the families have organised to clear their gardens, mow the lawns, you know, just clear rubbish, because a few of the houses do have rubbish in the backyards, and get it ready for these marakai to be built. We're learning about DIY builds, composting, companion gardening, and greenhouses, because we want to be able to supply these families with healthy kai throughout the year. So we know that we can't do this without greenhouses as well. We're trying to work to provide these families with empowerment and healthy kai and alternative healing ways. So one of the other initiatives that I've hooked up with is the pallet community, and it's an initiative that distributes pallets to the community to avoid waste in the tips. So it's a lot about using recycled items as well. They're non-treated, they're heat-treated pallets, so they're all good quality. What we are waiting for is just extra things like tools to help us get going on these pallets. And yeah, sorry, I'm taking a bit long. The other place that's helped us is Resines, is a paint company, and they've, you know, sponsored us too. So what I've done is I've written up a proposal and sent this out to a lot of places and organisations to try and get support. And I can send this out to you. We can organise having it emailed to you if you want to have a look at this. This is what I've used, and yeah, thank you for letting me explain a bit of it. I hope I got enough of it out there to use. So yeah.
I just want you to say what SCOPE is an acronym, and what does it mean? Oh,
okay. SCOPE is, it stands for, it's actually spelled SKOPE, which is supporting kinder options for our people and our environment. So, you know, we can't fix one without fixing the other. We need to work on our people and our environment at the same time. Yeah. Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. So the one thing that's come out today in New Zealand that's been released is mental health report, which is a smaller one of a big one coming, but it pivots on what Helen's been sharing here, and I hope that you got a lot out of that. The structure of how this all went down is, because we Māori are holistic, so we don't have a linear look at this. It happens organically, the relationship, and the person who feels comfortable enough to speak, which Helen, when we did a little bit of, are you sure, she finally said yes, and we were pleased about that, because this is one stage, and there's many for her that I believe where she can gain support and garner that support. Kia ora tātou, Nathan, and you've got some instructions for us now?
Yeah, so just before we go out, we're going to do some breakout rooms in a second, but Karina, there's a question came through the chat that I picked up. Where is Kāinga Ora at on the journey to universal design for new homes to enable disabled people to use them? 1 in 4 New Zealanders are disabled, and disproportionately more will be poor and need state housing.
Oh, that's a good question. And can you send that one to me? Because I'd like to take that upstairs a bit. But what,
I'll put it in the chat.
From my understanding, so I've done an urban regeneration engagement with wider community here. And what we do is we engage with many people, of which one is our disabled communities. And they come in and they inform us. So they talk to our architects, our designers, and there's a lot of discussion going on, so they're considered. So you can imagine, and I know a lot of you may not know what Purirua looks like, Eastern Purirua, but it's quite hilly. So our people came into our forums and they told us, our focus groups, and they actually engaged with us and they told us what they felt about that. And if we're going to redesign this whole suburb, then we want to see more accessibilities for our people who are in wheelchairs, because we do have a few of them. And we want to see access to people who are losing their sight, people who are losing their hearing. So all the stuff that features in these communities, we've heard from them and we've taken all their feedback. And every regeneration project we have, we are mindful that we need to hear from the whole complete community, of which they are one. So if that answers that question, but I'm happy to take it upstairs too, because that's a really good question.
Thank you, Karina. Right. What we're going to do now is we're going to break into breakout rooms. I'll manage this for you, so don't worry, you don't have to do anything except accept the invitation that will come through. And we're just going to give you an opportunity to have a chat in groups of 4 to 5 people about anything that may have stood out to you in the conversation there. We'll give, I'm just looking at the time, we'll give 5 minutes for that, just because we've got to get on to the next presenter, and then we'll have a quick opportunity for you to get someone from your group to feedback. Not everyone's going to manage it just because of time, so we'll do that now.
Yeah.
So do we have any, would anyone like to feed anything back from the presentation that we just saw, or is there any questions you have for Karina?
That means I did my job right?
Yeah.
And Helen did too.
If you are trying to speak, remember to press the unmute button on your Zoom, or we won't be able to hear you.
Hi, Karina and Paula from West Auckland.
Good, huh?
I've got a few friends who live in social housing, and on Facebook we usually connect. Some very senior Pakeha women who've obviously doing the gardening and stuff. And it's great, you know, I was quite excited. I know that we've got a Kiwi Build issue in New Zealand, and, you know, this new housing collaboration is wonderful. Now, she keeps bringing up a post which says someone's stealing her stuff, you know, her chocos, her bananas. I'm just wondering, what type of security do you have?
So she lives on one of our properties?
Yes, in Roskill.
Yeah, it's and her garden, is it in her backyard or is it in a common
I
space?
haven't been. She keeps inviting me to collect some of her chocos, but I'm a bit worried to go there at the moment. Sorry.
Oh, did you say Mount Ruskell?
Yes.
Yeah, they have a really strong foraging community there. So I would go back to your friend and say it's more of a compliment. But she can certainly connect with her local team tenancy manager.
Right.
I'm sure she has, but it's we won't want to put CTVs in there for that reason, for any reason.
Yeah,
actually.
but it's also a security issue, you know. Sometimes she wakes up and finds a bunch of bananas have been tempered, and you know but that's all. You know, I'm sure you guys can. Yeah,
you know what? It's one of the things we're starting all over our communities is that they, you know, this whole talk has been about tino rangatiratanga, self-determination. And one of the things my colleague, thank you, Lynn, has reminded me about is that we actually are starting to bud out those neighbourhood supports groups. So, and that's our customers and their neighbouring customers. We're connecting them and we're getting them to formulate relationships and also start these groups. It was something that was done in the past, I must say, but it's still very relevant for our communities because it does one-off situations where people are getting events like that happen to them. It's hard to monitor and manage, but you know, we always throw that back to the community. What would you like to do about that?
One of the things with the Neighbours Day that we did, it was connecting the neighbours together, so all the neighbours looked out for each other. So that's another thing. If you have a good relationship with your neighbours, they're more than likely to yell out if somebody's in your backyard and tell them to get out before they ring the police or something. So yeah.
Hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Kia ora.
I'm just being mindful of time. For the uninitiated to New Zealand, that might have been weird that we got both a workshop and a customer services issue dealt with. It is very normal here. I would just like to say again, thank you guys for your presentation. I'm going to pass over now to my colleague Jenny Nand up in Auckland.
Could I just add one little thing from our breakout, which was the importance of people like Karina and others in agencies listening. And the question would be, how can we amplify community voices into authorities to get action? Because the more, listening ears that we've got, the better we can collectively solve the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Is that from us?
Sorry, I was just typing that down so we've got it in the chat. Right, I'm looking for Jenny. Are you there?
Kia ora, I'm here.
Kia ora.
So before I get into the presentation, I'd like to introduce myself to you. Jenny Nand, based here in Hamilton, Kirikiriroa. I am a migrant. I came to New Zealand about approximately 25 years ago from the beautiful island of Fiji. Since my arrival, have never left Kirikiriroa because it's a beautiful place to be. So the topic today is very close to my heart actually. And before we talk about it, the questions that was posed is, can government use ABCD to support communities? Is it possible for government agencies to get out of the way so communities are empowered, yet provide support from behind the scenes? I like the apostrophes, get out of the way. So today I'm going to take you through a narrative and a personal reflection. Nathan, can you please put the slides up on the screen? So I work for the Department of Internal Affairs. As you can appreciate, our department is the oldest department or crown body in the history of New Zealand. And within that, we have a business group called Community Operations, Hapai Hapari. And we have an exciting journey around how our framework has been evolving in terms of how we partner with our communities. The next slide, please, Nathan. So when I say who we are and what we do, the approach we have is building the bridge together while we're working on it. That is, a government department working with our communities alongside, and the focus area we have. What is it we do? So there's 3 areas that we focus on. We provide community advisory services to not-for-profit organizations and communities at large, which could be communities of place or communities of interest. We also do funding administration, so we administer approximately up to 300 million across New Zealand. So, and we work within the framework of community-led development. We as a collective have 16 offices, if you can appreciate what New Zealand landscape looks like. So we have 16 offices throughout New Zealand that enables us to have a footprint, geographical footprint throughout the country. Next slide, please, Nathan. Because we are a funding administrator, about March 2011, we had a review of our crown funding streams. And one of the things that the review found out was the way we were administrating or working in this space was not actually enabling community aspirations to come forward. It was a very transactional space to be in. So the review had some recommendations, and the recommendations was grounded in that we can work better with the CLD approach in mind. And if you move away from a transactional approach to a relationship-based model, you will achieve more. So what did we do out of that review? We engaged in a pilot space where we engaged with 4 communities, and we used the community-led development model to explore what that partnership moving from the transactional space to a relationship approach should look like. And out of those partnership pilot spaces, we worked in that space for 5 years. We learned a lot of lessons, and out of those lessons, what we did was, Nathan, can you please move to the next slide? Thank you. Out of those lessons came the realization that what we need to do is, we need to also not just think about the community-led development principles and how it works, but also as an organization build our capability and capacity. Also realize, what does community-led development principles look like in the context of contemporary New Zealand? And can I just have a quick show of hands, just to make it a bit more interactive? How many of you actually know what community-led development principles are and or have used it? Okay, so I'll just quickly explain you what community-led development principles are. It bases its assumption of that community collectively works on a shared vision and drive. So where everybody has a voice and everybody can contribute. Everybody works with the asset-based community development approach of where the strengths and assets can be utilized, the community-driven solutions. Many groups and sectors can work together in a sense that the business sector can partner with the not-for-profit organizations, the local government can come into play, central government can come into play and work collectively together, where the diverse stakeholders can also take some responsibility and support the communities in their spaces, be it from a funding space or be it from an expert advisory space. And it is not based on everything needs to be perfect. It is based on the fact that you are learning as you are going and you're adopting and adapting your model as you are going. So it's almost based on a very reflective based practice. There's no sense of perfection within that. It is about what is urgent and important right now and how do we make some movements within that, utilizing the community's knowledge, utilizing the local leaders' knowledge, utilizing and supporting the community's infrastructure within that. And that's what I mean by contextualizing. And one of the things for us here in Aotearoa, which is really, really important, is when we talk about communities of place, is understanding the role that mana whenua play within those communities. So understanding that the mana whenua voice is always at the table, informing that community visioning, that community drive, and also utilizing the traditional knowledge and insights to progress the kaupapa at hand. So our journey has been, we had a pilot. We learned some key lessons as a government organizations. One of the key lessons for us was that we need to build our internal capability and capacity. We need to understand what does working in a relational way means, working in a mana enhancing way means for our communities, understanding that one size does not fit all. You can't have a model that's worked, say for example, in probably Sandringham may work in the Waikato. No, it doesn't. You have to contextualize it and base it in the community that you are working in. We have to also understand what is a Crown organization's role when you're working in a community-led way, and what is your role in supporting community development or community-led initiatives. Also recognizing that community-led development takes time, and when it takes time, it also has layers of complexity. So sometimes what happens is with government departments, it can be a syndrome that we think that, okay, if you've funded ABC initiatives, it should have a clean ABCD outcomes. It doesn't necessarily work like that. Community-led development is organic in nature. It takes time, and it is layered with layers of complexity. It has layers of conflicts within that. So how do you partner with communities and walk alongside them to enable that to happen? And that has been our learning over time. Can you shift to the next slide, please, Nathan? In here, well, I've already mentioned our key learnings, but I also want to re-emphasize here that we don't take an expert perspective. We have been a journey from 2011 to now as an organization, as a Crown entity. We are keeping on learning. We are proactively trying to support everybody within our internal ecosystem, be our community advisors or our managers within that space, trying to learn what does it mean if we are a Crown entity to be a partner to a community. How do we take our relationships and our responsibilities seriously? We don't come from an expert perspective, we come from a learning organization perspective where we are continuously learning and enhancing our practice, and our communities tell us what works and what doesn't. The next slide, please, Nathan. And here I actually want to leave you with the Pakataki, which grounds me as a practitioner every day. And it is e aha, te nianui o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the most important thing in the world? It is people, it is people, it is people, it is the communities, it is the communities, it is the communities. They know best what they need for their community. As a Crown entity, our responsibility is to listen with intent, listen with focus, listen with empathy and compassion, and then know what our role within those spaces are and walk alongside communities. Before I end my presentation, I also want to acknowledge our DIA colleagues. I see Thomas Marshall on the line, Manjini, Nita, Brody, Winnie, Blair, and Nathan. Thank you for all the work you do, Fano. I really appreciate it. And for all of the communities that have joined across from all over the world, thank you for actually participating in this conference as well. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, we know the drill now. We're gonna go real quickly into our breakout rooms. I'll give you an extra minute because I'm feeling generous. We'll do 6 minutes in the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back and have the opportunity for just 1 or 2 comments, feedback, or questions, and then Blair can close us off if he's still on and willing to do so. Okay, let's rock and roll. And welcome back, everybody. I hope you had some good, if short, conversations there. So we're gonna do this New Zealand style. You're gonna have to go hard or go home. Whoever would like to feedback, jump in. It is your time.
Quick question. We are totally inspired by what you guys, the leadership that you have provided from a government perspective, and we would love to have you guys come and talk to, your counterparts in Australia, and I think we would try to find ways to do that now, because I think a lot of communities in different countries are struggling. How do we work with government? So I think we really want to hear from you guys and how we can do that more in other countries as well. So that's a conversation we need to continue. And I'd love to, perhaps you might want to share your thoughts on how we can make that happen. If we could do that now or later.
Top tip, all the stuff that's in the chat is being recorded. So if you'd like to put your email in the chat, we'll have someone go through it and we'll keep you up to date with any things that happen, and we'll include that mailing list. So if you put your email in the chat, we will include it in a mailing list and we'll keep people in the loop. How does that sound? Anybody else?
Oh, hi. One, just responding to Om, and we talked about in our group, is one of the challenges of Australia across the ditch is 3 levels of government. So everything I do over there is complicated by the fact you have 3 levels. We have 2, and that's hard enough. But yeah, so I always say it works better in New Zealand. Just get rid of one of your layers of government.
I'm just looking at time. We've got time for maybe one more comment if someone, or question if somebody is quick in. No takers. Okay. We like it. Perfect. Blair, are you happy just to close the meeting and the formalities of the meeting? And if anyone does want a couple of minutes afterwards, I don't have a next meeting to go to, so I'm happy to keep it open. But if we close off the formalities, let people get away.
Sure thing, Nathan. No worries. And for those that are joining us in the next conference with creating welcoming, inclusive and regenerative neighbourhoods, I'll see you there. But ka pai tō mahi, in Māori that means great work. Tēnā koe, Nathan, kia ora for your amazing and humorous hosting. And I'll close us up with a karakia. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atawhai o tō tātou ariki, a iu karati, me te aroha, te atua, me te whiwhinga, teitanga, ki te wāroa tapu, ake ake, amene.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we hope to see you in some of our upcoming sessions. Remember, if you have not checked out the unconference.net website, please do so. There are more sessions there. Goodbye.